Welcome to Diksha Online. Today our topic is electrostatics. Today's our topic is so let us see the main points here. First of all, what do we study in electrostatics? Electrostatics means charges at rest. So we are studying here behavior of static charges. The most important point is what do we mean by charge? So charge means either deficiency of electron or excess of electron. Deficiency of electron means positive charge and excess of electron means negative charge. Then we will come to Coulomb's law. This result gives us force between two point charges when they are separated between some distance r. So Coulomb's law, the force is given by this expression that force is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r square. In vector form we can write epsilon naught is permittivity of free space. Numerical value is 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 12 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. Coulomb square per Newton meter square or so moving charges may result in magnetic interaction, and if charges are extended, induction may change the charge distribution. Principle of superposition, that this is Coulomb's law, gives us force between 2 point charges, but suppose there are more than 2 charges, then we can calculate force on a charge using the principle of superposition. One by one we can calculate the force and take the vector sum to get the total force. And most important point is the force due to one charge is not affected by the presence of the other charges. This is independent of presence of the other charges. Now electric field is defined as force per unit charge. Unit therefore will be newtons per coulomb, or other alternative unit is volt per meter also. Electric field due to a point charge we know is given by q by 4 pi epsilon naught r square. And if we have distribution of charge, then we can find this by integration. One more important thing, field due to positive charge will always be away from the charge, and field due to negative charge will always be towards the charge. If you have infinite line charge, then the field is given by, at a distance r, 2 lambda by r. K is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Lambda is charge per unit length. And here expression for electric field for a semi-infinite line charge, that is at a point above the end of the wire, it is like this. Charge per unit length is lambda, this end is fixed, this end goes to infinity. So field will be at this point like this, making an angle of 45 degrees, and magnitude will be given by root 2 k lambda by r. For the ring, uniformly charged ring, field at the center is 0, and field at a point on the axis is given by kqx by x square plus r square raised to the power 3 by 2. To know where field will be maximum at which point, we can do it like this. Putting dE by dx equal to 0, we will get x equal to r by root 2. Then electric field due to a large sheet, infinite non-conducting sheet, is given by sigma by 2 epsilon naught, and sigma is the surface charge density. And for a plate, the field is given by sigma by epsilon naught. You can see that these results are independent of the distance of the point from the sheet or the plate. The result is true as long as the sheet or plate is large. Due to a charged solid sphere, field outside is given by q by 4 pi epsilon naught r square. Means it is behaving like a point charge. At inside points, it is given by qr by 4 pi epsilon naught r cube or rho r by 3 epsilon naught, where rho is volume charge density. If it is a spherical shell, field outside, again it behaves like a point charge, and inside points field is 0. So, cylinder with a charge density rho is given by E inside rho r by 2 epsilon naught. Outside it is rho r square by 2 epsilon naught r. Cylindrical shell, inside 0, outside is given by this. Lines of force is hypothetical representation of the field. It helps us to find the direction of the field as well as magnitude of the field. Properties are: electric lines of force never intersect each other, originate from positive charge, terminate on the negative charge. Or will extend up to infinity. Electrostatic equilibrium means net force 0 in the electric field or net torque 0. Then come to electric flux. Electric flux is defined as dot product of field vector and area vector if field is uniform. If field is non-uniform, then we will have to find it via integration. Now come to Gauss law. Gauss law states that flux of the electric field through a closed surface, that is integral E dot dA, is given by charge enclosed by epsilon naught. Here, charge on the right hand side, that is Q enclosed, is the charge present inside the closed surface, whereas the electric field on the left hand side is the net electric field at the location of the closed surface, that is field because of the inside charges as well as field because of the outside charges. And this result of Gauss law, we should understand that it does not depend on the shape and size of the closed surface. Only requirement is it should be a closed surface. And second important point is charges located outside the closed surface do not contribute to the flux. Solid angle is defined as angle subtended by some area at a point. Say we have an area and at point here some charge q is there, so peripheral point are joined to the charge, then we can see that a cone type angle is subtended there, that is called solid angle, and solid angle of cone of half angle theta, that is semi-vertex angle, is given by 2 pi into 1 minus cos theta. So flux of the electric field due to this charge through the base of the cone will be given by q by 2 pi epsilon naught into 1 minus cos theta. It's a very important result. Now come to the concept of potential. Electric potential, which is a scalar quantity and is defined as work done by external forces in bringing a unit positive charge from infinity to that point. So its definition may be written as V is equal to W external per unit charge. Its unit from this definition is joules per coulomb, which is called volt. And potential difference between 2 points A and B will be given by work done in taking the charge Q from B to A divided by the charge. This is known as potential difference between A and B. So here electric field and electric potential, this is a very important idea, that field and potential are two different methods, tools to describe the same physical entity called electric field. One is a vector quantity, field is a vector quantity, and potential is a scalar quantity. And from the knowledge of the field, we get an idea of the force that will act on a charge and the direction along which this force will act. Similarly, if we know the potential at a point in the electric field, then we get the information that if a charge is placed at that point, how much potential energy it can possess. So, potential gives an idea about the energy in the electric field, and field gives us an idea about the force that a charge can experience along with its direction. So that is why I am saying that field and potential are two different tools to describe the same electric field. One is a vector quantity, other is a scalar quantity, and a very important relation between the field and potential is potential difference between 2 points A and B. That is VA minus VB will be given by this integral minus E dot dl if we are finding VA minus VB, then this integration A to B, yes, this integration should be done B to A, not A to B. This is not correct. So, potential due to a point charge will be given by Q by 4 pi epsilon naught R, and in this expression we must keep in mind that sign of the charge must be written. Sign of the charge is important. If charge is negative, potential will also be negative. If charge is positive, its potential will be positive. So in this expression of potential, you must put the sign of the charge, then only it will be correct. And if you have many charges due to which you want to find potential at a certain point, then it is very simple. Being a scalar quantity, you can find potential due to different charges at that point, and simply add them to get the total potential. This can be done like this simply because it is a vector, it is a scalar quantity. We have to do simply a scalar addition, that is add the potentials with their proper sign to get the net potential. For a continuous charge distribution, of course we will have to do integration, that V will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught integral dq by r. Then for a spherical shell potential, shell means hollow conducting sphere, thin conducting sphere. So outside the spherical shell, the potential is given by q by 4 pi epsilon naught r, and inside it is like this, V inside is equal to Vs. So whatever is the potential at the surface of a hollow sphere, same will be the potential at any inside point also. That is why you can say that V inside is equal to Vs, and for outside points it will behave like a point charge. From the expression you can make out. If it is a solid sphere, then for outside points it again behaves like a point charge. So expression is similar, q by 4 pi epsilon naught r. And for inside points, potential is given by this expression, that q by into 3r square minus r square, it is like 4 pi epsilon naught r cube. It is like this. We can write it like this. This is the expression for potential at an inside point. R is the distance of the point from the center. So keep this expression in mind for V inside. Then equipotential surfaces and equipotential region. Equipotential surface, as the word meaning is suggesting, such an imaginary surface in the electric field. Potential at all the points on that surface will be equal. So will be called equipotential. Word meaning. So we can alternatively say that equipotential surface is such that if we take a charge from one point to the other on the equipotential surface, work done will be equal to 0. That is, no work is done in taking a charge from one point to the other on an equipotential surface. Alternatively, we can say that electric field lines will always be perpendicular on the equipotential surface. All these statements are equivalent. Now, come to electrical potential energy for system of charges. Suppose we have two charges Q1 and Q2 separated by some distance r. So potential energy of the charge system will be given by Q1 Q2 by 4 pi epsilon naught r. So the important point here is that put the sign of the charges. in this expression. That is important. If the charge is positive, put it with positive sign. If the charge is negative, then put here with its proper sign. So realize that potential energy, electrical potential energy between the charges can be positive, can be negative. It will all depend upon the sign of the charges. For example, suppose that both the charges are negative. So minus q1 minus q2 will make it positive, then the potential energy for such a system will be positive. But if one charge is positive, other is negative, then potential energy will be negative. So point is, whenever we are calculating electrical potential energy for the system of charges, we must put the sign of the charges. For three particle system, it should be written like this. What we have to do, that we have to take a pair of charges, write the potential energy for that pair, and then possible number of pairs we have to see. No pair should be repeated, that care we should take. So we can, like this we can write. So therefore, if three charges are there, number of pairs will be 3. Possible pairs without repetition will be 3. So we can have it like this, that if there are n charged particles, so there will be n into n minus 1 by 2 terms in the expression of potential energy. So this we keep in mind, so that no term will be left out and no term will be repeated. And total energy of a system, potential energy, we must realize it will be the self energy of the system plus the mutual interaction energy also. If potential V is known at a particular point, then we can find the potential energy of a charge at that point using the relation U is equal to Q into V. Now come to the concept of electric dipole. Electric dipole, simple definition: two equal and opposite point charges separated by a small distance. This arrangement is called an electric dipole. For dipole, one vector quantity called dipole moment vector we define as its magnitude is defined as either charge into separation, P is equal to Q into D, and its direction will be from minus Q charge to plus Q charge. The line joining the negative charge to the positive charge is called dipole axis. That is, dipole moment vector is along the dipole axis. Electric field at a general point due to this dipole having polar coordinates r and theta, r is measured from the midpoint of the dipole, is given by this radial electric field, means this is the dipole, this is the midpoint O, this is some point P where we are finding the field. This distance is r, this is theta. So radial direction means this, the field in this direction, and tangential component or transverse component is the component in this direction, ET, and net field will be vector sum of the two. So the radial component is given by 2kp cos theta by r cube, and tangential component is given by kp sin theta by r cube. And net field, of course, these are perpendicular components, so net field will be vector sum of the two. This is given by kp by r cube root over 1 plus 3 cos square theta and tan phi. tan phi we can see that is phi is the angle which the net electric field at point P is making with the radial direction. So tan phi will be equal to Et by Er. So this will be half tan theta. Electric potential due to a dipole at any point P is given by this relation. That is Kp cos theta by r square. This may be written as P cross r by 4 pi epsilon naught r cube. So now two more important points regarding the field. One is at a point on the axis. So field is given by 2p by 4 pi epsilon naught r cube. What I am saying is this. This is the dipole, this is the midpoint, this is the axis. So point P is here or here, anywhere. Field will be given by 2p by 4 pi epsilon naught r cube, and direction will be parallel to the axis. Whether the point is here or here, direction of the field is parallel to the axis, and on a line on the perpendicular bisector at a distance r, field is given by, field is first of all anti-parallel to the dipole axis, and magnitude is what? P by 4 pi epsilon naught r cube. And if we examine the interaction between the dipole and the electric field, so in the electric field it experiences a torque which is given by P cross E. Magnitude by P sin theta. Theta is angle between P vector and E vector. So next, one more expression. If we want to turn this dipole in the electric field from one orientation to the other, that is from one position, say P vector and E vector, angle between them is theta 1, and we want to turn the dipole such that this angle between P vector and E vector becomes theta 2. So from one position theta 1 to theta 2, if we want to turn the dipole in the electric field, some external agency will have to do work, and that work will be given by P into cos theta 1 minus cos theta 2. And as far as potential energy of the dipole placed in the electric field is concerned, it is given by U is equal to minus P dot E. And this result has been arrived at considering that when P vector and E vector are at right angles, energy of the potential energy of the system will be taken as 0. So calculation of potential energy, we know first of all we will have to fix a reference. So in case of dipole placed in the electric field, reference we are choosing like this, that when P vector and E vector are at right angles, the potential energy of the system will be taken as 0. One more very important result, that what do we mean by electrostatic pressure? Due to a charge on a charged body, due to its own charges, some force will be acting on the body. This happens in case of a charged body, charged conductor. So if a conductor is given some charge, due to its own charge, it experiences some force, and that force per unit area is called electrical pressure. That force per unit area is called electrical pressure. And this electrical pressure on a conductor is equal to sigma square by 2 epsilon naught. Sigma is surface charge density. So electrical pressure on a charged surface, its charge density is sigma due to external electric field will be sigma into E1. Same thing, same result. Important points to be remembered. First point is electric field always perpendicular to a conductor surface. Simply because conductor surface is an equipotential surface. If it is not so, then what will happen? Suppose that we have a conductor suppose that electric field is like this, make some angle, and on this there are 2 points I and F at a separation D. What you want? A charge Q, you are moving from I to F, you want to calculate the work done. Remember that conductor surface is an equipotential surface, so therefore work done in taking the charge from one point to the other must be equal to 0. So since the electric field is making an angle theta to the conductor surface, we can resolve it into components E cos theta, E sin theta. Due to the component E sin theta, no work can be done because force and displacement will be at right angles. But due to this component E cos theta, a force will act on the charge in the direction of the displacement. So work done will be equal to Q cos theta into D. But this must be equal to 0 because it is an equipotential surface, conductor surface. So work done 0, therefore we can conclude that cos theta here, so theta 90 degree. So this proves our point that electric field lines always perpendicular on a conductor surface. And one more important point, that charge density at sharp points on a conductor is always greater. This can be proved with the help of Gauss law. And whenever a conductor is charged, the charge will reside on the outer surface only. Interior of the conductor always remains charge free. Another point is potential difference between 2 points in an electric field does not depend upon the path joining them. It is independent of the path because it is defined as work done per unit charge. So work done per unit charge, work done here is independent of the path. So potential difference also between 2 points, the calculation will be independent of the path in taking the charge from one point to the other. Another important point is positive charge flows from higher to lower potential, that is in the direction of the electric field, and negative charge from lower potential to higher potential, that is in a direction opposite to the electric field. And when P vector, that is dipole moment vector, is parallel to electric field vector, dipole is in stable equilibrium. Or when P vector and E vector are anti-parallel to each other, then the equilibrium will be unstable. Another important point is when a charged isolated conducting sphere is connected to an uncharged small conducting sphere, then the potential and charge remains almost same on the larger sphere while the smaller is charged. Fact is that due to some charge transfer to the smaller sphere, potential will hardly be affected. Self potential energy of a charged spherical shell is given by kq square by 2r. This is the self energy. You can remember it like same thing. You can remember it like this also. Q square by 8 pi epsilon naught r. And self potential energy of a uniformly charged solid sphere will be 3kq square by 5r. This may be written as same thing. Another important point is a spherically symmetric charge behaves as if the charge is concentrated at the center for outside points. We saw this in case of hollow sphere and solid sphere. For the outside points, the sphere, hollow or solid, behaved as if the total charge is located at the center of the sphere. Again, polarization is the dipole moment induced per unit volume. Numerically, it is equal to surface charge density induced at the faces which are perpendicular to the direction of the applied electric field. 1D graph generator is used to generate very high potential. This device is used to generate high potential of the order of 10 million volts, 10 to the power 6 volts. It is based on following two important phenomena. First is charge always resides on the outer surface of a hollow conductor. Second, the electric discharge in air takes place radially at the pointed ends of the conductor. Capacitance is meaning of capacitance is capacity to store charge, and for a spherical conductor it is given by 4 pi epsilon naught r in air, and in some medium it will be epsilon r, where epsilon r is the relative permittivity of the medium. Spherical capacitor, suppose we have two concentrically placed spherical shells having radii A and B, then capacitance of the system is given by 4 pi epsilon naught AB by B minus A. And for the outer only it will be C2 is 4 pi epsilon naught B. It is just like an isolated sphere. For parallel plate capacitor, capacitance will be given by this in air, and in some other medium epsilon r, that is relative permittivity of the medium, will come into the expression. Then we have another important result, that in between the plates of the capacitor some dielectric slab has been placed. Suppose that thickness of the dielectric slab is T and its relative permittivity is epsilon r. So it will be given by capacitance epsilon naught A by D in minus 1 minus T by epsilon r. Opposite medium, suppose that the space between the plates is filled with three different dielectrics. say one has relative permeability epsilon R1, epsilon R2, epsilon R3. So first of all, we can consider them as three independent capacitors completely filled with the dielectric. And then these capacitors will be connected in series, because what type of connection is this? End-to-end connection is there. So they are connected in series. So equivalent capacitance is given like this. We can take their sum of their reciprocals. Cylindrical capacitor, for cylindrical capacitor, capacitance is given by this formula. Here A is the inner radius, B is the radius of the outer cylinder. Farad per meter, the unit. Expression of capacitance when it will be completely filled with a dielectric material, it will be epsilon naught K A by D. If air is there, K will be equal to 1. So here, if either K, A or D varies in the region between the plates, then we are taking one element, and that element reciprocal of that capacitance will be written as this: integral dx by epsilon naught K into Ax. Now different type of grouping. So diagram here shows series grouping, end-to-end connection. That is, positive of one is connected to negative of the other, and so on and so on. So this type of grouping is called series grouping. Suppose potential V has been applied. We want to calculate the capacitance. So they are connected in series. So potential between these 2 points will be V1 plus V2 plus V3. So suppose the potential is here. Suppose that their equivalent is C. So here the combination is taking a total charge Q. So this should also take the same charge. So V1, V2, V3. So we get the same result is given here for series grouping. In parallel, what happens? Look at the method of connection, that one terminal of all the capacitors are connected at one point and other remaining terminals are connected at some other point. So this type of grouping will be called parallel grouping, and between these two free ends a potential difference can be applied. Here three capacitors C1, C2, C3, so they are connected in parallel. Obviously potential across the three will be the same. So we can calculate the charges Q1 will be C1V, Q2 will be C2V, and so on, and total sum of the three total charge. But total charge, we know Q can be written as Q can be written as C into V, Q1, Q2, Q3, C1V, C2V, like that we can write. So you will get this relation ultimately. Energy stored in a capacitor is given by half CV square, half QV, Q square by 2C. So we can use the relation according to what is given to you in the question. Then, due to charge flow, some amount of heat is produced when a switch is closed in a circuit, which can be obtained by energy conservation. Heat will be equal to work done by the battery minus energy absorbed by the capacitor. Then we have sharing of charges. Sharing, suppose we have two capacitors C1, C2, they have been charged to potentials V1 and V2, then they are batteries. After removing battery, the capacitors are joined. Since the two capacitors will be connected in parallel, so we can calculate the potential across them as net charge divided by the net capacitance. So net charge will be Q1 plus Q2 and capacitance will be C1 plus C2. From this we can write Q1 will be C1 into V, Q2 C2 into V. So what we do here, that let us find the energy difference, that U initial minus U real. So this you will get an expression like this, C1 C2 by 2, C1 plus C2 into V1 minus V2 ka square. Another important point, the capacitance of a capacitor depends only on the size, geometry and the dielectric between the conducting surface. It is independent of the charge, potential, etc. So okay, we will then try to solve some problems.